downtown,
Yeah, we
they closed.
How are you feeling, Jonathan?
Okay, we found
Yeah.
this place still going.
But it was nice to take Monday off.
I'm totally gonna budget the, it's two different numbers, it's like 3, 7,
All
or
right,
3, 11
looks
or
like we
something.
should be
It's a sports bar. They don't have
all
a lot of
set up,
alcohol, but they
ready to
have,
go.
like really cheap beer
All
and
right,
seltzers and stuff.
here we go.
And
Welcome
it's
to the
full-on,
Finance
like,
Committee meeting of the Isla Vista Community Services
They
District
have,
on August
like, all
17th,
these
2023.
and
I'm
we, like,
Carrie
have a
Tompkins,
way to, like,
Chair,
play
and I'm
cards
here with
about
Board
it,
Member
like,
Spencer Grant and Olivia
and,
Flack
like,
Craig.
all these arcade games,
And
it's full
I'm
on,
going to
like,
call the meeting
Okay,
to
this is
order.
where we're going.
Meeting is being
and,
recorded.
The two people that are there every day.
Before
Rhonda
we
and
begin,
Travis,
we would like to
Rhonda
acknowledge
is
the
just,
Chumash
like,
people who are the
literally
traditional
what you
custodians
said
of this
to
land.
Rhonda, she's like,
We pay our respects to the Chumash elders, past, present, and future, who called this place Anaskoyo, the land that Isla Vista sits upon, their home. We are proud to continue their tradition of coming together and growing as a community. We thank the Chumash community for their stewardship and support, and we look forward to strengthening our ties as we continue our relationship of mutual respect and understanding. And now is the public comment period.
No one.
No public comments. All right, then I will move ahead to 3.1 on the discussion and action item agenda, which is the compost collective budget discussion.
Okay, so long awaited. Let me just see.
Months in the preparation.
Yes.
Dribs and drabs and the information.
So we're here though now. So here's the proposed budget for 23-24. There's a more detailed tab where it really gets into the nitty gritty of how this is derived, but we're gonna just talk about the end result first and then we can get into the nitty gritty. But the end result is this budget we're being of $257,000. It includes 2 full-time positions, program manager and the project manager, and $62,000 of extra help labor, up from $39,000. The other costs go up, to scale, like health insurance, unemployment. And then advertising is newly added because Compost Collective hadn't previously had an advertising budget. And then a dedicated one, and then equipment stays the same. And I'll go over the model of how this all works, but based on this budget and what the proposed plan of how much compost we're able to generate based on this amount of work, and this includes collection being started back up again, based on all and us having a fee for collection, based on all that, we'd be able to generate $38,000 in revenue. So it makes the program work, net financial impact of $219,000. And the projection towards the future of 24-25 is, the program would go up in cost as we expand our composting ability and our collection service. It would go up in cost to do that to $309,000, but the potential revenue goes up much faster than the costs do. So then the net financial impact is projected to be, it's obviously a guess, but it's based on this model that we're developing, 211,000. So the cost technically goes down even though the costs grow, the net financial impact goes down from year to year. And how this is derived is this is what we have come up with. And it says part 1, 2, and 3 here. The thing to know is that part 3, it's all 2023, 2024. But part 3 is where we land, and that's what we're proposing for the final budget. But we're gonna go one step at a time to get there. So the part 3 costs aren't gonna be hitting the budget all right away. It's gonna be over a period of time, mostly over the fall period, but maybe some of them even later. But it just depends on how things work out. But we're hoping to do it mostly over the next couple of months. So this breaks down what the cost of collections versus the cost of composting is, for example, the cost of employees, other work, and a new intern position, a marketing coordinator that we would hire in the near future to help get our sales to a higher level. And the sales figures, they come from here at the bottom. This is just like a rough estimate of what we can produce and for what we can sell it for. And you'll see it's like almost a smaller amount of compost being sold for a higher price because the first amount is us just selling in bulk without any marketing or product development. It's just getting rid
Wholesale,
of
not retail.
wholesale. I mean,
So
we were just trying to get rid of product. Like it was just too much storage room. It was just sitting there. So we had to get rid of it. But then we're thinking this year, as we ramp up with our marketing manager or marketing intern, we could get the product to be selling at $18 a cubic foot. And even further into the future, we could get into a market of having $15 for half cubic foot bags. So that's the logic, is that we would be producing more, and we would be able to market it better in a way that we're selling it. And we're packaging, like we don't have anyone to package right now, for example. So that marketing position would help with getting the product packaged. If you just put it in a bag, you could sell it more for the convenience factor. So there's a whole world of sales and marketing that's in front of us, but that marketing position is what would help us go from being, bulk sales, which aren't very good, to more specialized sales.
And the marketing position comes in when?
It's in the next couple of months, like, September, October.
And it's a half-time position?
I put it as 20 hours for $20. So it's like a high level intern role that's in the salary schedule.
And then is it anticipated it would become more as we ramped up, become more retail?
It's not in the projection right now, but I think it's something where we see how it's going. If we're really like making lots of money and we're making lots of sales and it's going so well, we should look at it again. But yeah, it's not in like the 2024-2025 budget, it's still the same 20-hour for $20 a week position. But that's definitely something we'll look at in the future.
I have a question. This is
Yeah.
kind of programmatic, but what are the things that need to happen to get from where we currently are right now, which is selling it at 35 a cubic yard, to $15 for a half cubic foot? Does that mean that we're getting better at maintaining and producing it and turning it, and in addition to the marketing, or is it just marketing?
It's a little bit of both. It's mainly marketing. For example, like you can see here, we would be producing this year still only 27 cubic feet per week. But as we ramp up to having even more houses being collected for and having more people working on composting, in next year we would be able to fully utilize all our space all the time and be producing double essentially the amount of compost, 54 cubic feet. So the 72,000 number that we get to is both us marketing better and producing our full capacity. So like you see, we'll be using half our space even this year, even with this bigger budget and bringing back the collection service. We're using half the space capacity just because of the inputs and outputs and how that all works. And we don't want to grow way too fast and not balance out. So we said we just do it this way this year. We refine the 6-week cycle, because once we get to the 6-week cycle, based on the amount of compost piles we have, if it's like fully optimized, yeah, we would only need to use half of them based on how much inputs we have. But yeah, this is all still shaking out and being developed, but that's also in the next couple months to get to the 27 cubic feet being produced consistently.
And we're also thinking that eventually we'll actually be selling topsoil, so gardening.
Yeah.
So compost is just a component of that. And so when you actually make it ready for just the basic consumer use to stick in a flower pot, it's more attractive to the casual gardener. And also the non-compost ingredients that go in are a lot cheaper.
Mhm.
So
So you
you're,
can like stretch your compost.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the idea, is like we would keep marketing, we would find more places to sell, like, Carly's met with the IV Food Co-op. So what we sell there is really different than what we sell to AgriTurf. And, the customer at the IV Food Co-op is looking for that $15 bag that can do all their purposes versus the, $35, they get way more compost, but they have nothing to do with it. So that's the idea.
Yeah, so
Producing
you're
more
selling
and
you're selling
marketing
it to more of a distributor type of model right now, as it is.
Yeah, we're selling to AstroTurf.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so as we make that transition, are we factoring in like the others, you mentioned the marketing, what about the other overheads of like keeping the inventory and like managing sales and
That
stuff?
position would be doing all of that. They'd be
Okay.
making sure we get the inventory to the, distributor and things like, and
Okay,
packaging it. That's what marketing is, like making sure we get the right product to the right person to sell it.
okay,
So it's not them promoting our product to the customer necessarily, it's them getting our product to the right place for the customer. And then they would do some things to make customers know about us, but the main point is getting it on the shelves. Like that's most of marketing, is getting it on the shelves.
okay.
Yeah.
And so that role would look like what, that'd be a full-time?
20 hours a week.
That'd be 20 hours a week?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, and then, Carly would be involved in this. She like builds the initial partnerships. And our project manager would also, who does the operational side of things, would also, it would be a team effort, but this person would be like the dedicated person
okay.
for it.
And so the ramp up to get there happens over the course of 2 fiscal years?
It's
Is that
in
right?
this next couple months.
Over the next couple of months?
Yeah.
Okay, okay,
We should be able to
Okay.
get the 6-week cycle going by the fall, and this position hired by the fall. And
Okay.
this process should be fully working soon. Like that's our goal, is to get the 6-week cycle and using half of our space. Using half of our space means we're fully optimized at that point.
okay,
And then we plan to bring the fee for the so we've started the collection service already using the current budget up to 39,000. We were able to do that within the old budget. We started a free collection service, or we plan to do that on after Labor Day. But we do want to implement a fee, and so this budget does include having the fee from collection being, offsetting almost most of the cost, but not all of it. It would be like, I think Carly, you could help me out, but I think we would be projecting charging $10 and the actual cost of collections at 15 or something like that. So two-thirds.
It's 10 and 11. So like the actual cost, or at least from my estimations, comes out to around 11 and then 10.
And then the
And can I just add something really fast about Spencer's last question?
Sure.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, I just wanted to say that like I think that, or I mean, basically to get to that higher revenue level, we don't have to change much about our current operations. Like our operations are ready. It's more just like, first of all, like one of the biggest costs in this third budget comes from like running our collection service. And that's just one like way to basically have like this regular consistent input into our compost system that's reliable, contamination free, obviously. And then after that, it's just doing things like there's certifications that just like require certain types of testing. So just like setting up systems to get those tests, which is something the intern would be looking into, which would be good experience for someone learning about product labels and stuff like that. And then once we can get our stuff into bags and like Carrie said, into just like a more maybe at first simple medium, we've been thinking about, we've been testing different recipes of potting soil and just like having to use a lot less compost. So kind of while we have limited space to be stretching our product volume. And then, yeah, other than that, it's like, so it's a lot of just, it's the product and like method, I guess, is there. And now it's just sort of further development, which takes time. But yeah, I think that's everything, but I'm just super excited. And let me know if you have any other questions, Jonathan.
Thank you, Carl. So there is a roadmap it's not going to be fully self-sustaining in the next couple of years, like this year or next year, but there's definitely, the net financial impact is going down. That's what we know. We can get the net financial impact to go down over the years. And so that's the main gist. If we even go to 2024, 2025, and that's the final state, at least we would have achieved making the program cost less while doing more. And so we can then scale that as we get to that point. But it's a guess, and these numbers of sales, it could be way higher, it could be a little lower. We don't know. We know that the collection will be pretty reliable. There's a lot of demand. And $10 is under what most of the surveys we've done of people what they're willing to pay. So it's pretty promising that we could do the collection for that amount. So
And remind me, the fee, we don't have to do a fee study to determine what the fee is, do we?
we're studying that right now. We've gotten different answers from different people about it. But the latest, and Carly and I didn't get to update you yet on this, but the latest news from our attorney is that if we're setting this up as a voluntary program, there might be a way to avoid the formal fee study. Like we'd still have to do something small that we can do in-house and not do like the protest hearing and the property owners being notified, because it's not a fee like the trash fee
Everybody has to pay.
where everyone has to pay.
Yeah,
We
they
still
just
have to
It's
do
an
something.
opt-in program.
Yeah, we'll still have to do something, but we might not have to do as elaborate of a process where we have to do like a mailing to every property owner and, set up multiple public hearings. And so,
That would
Carl-
be nice.
yeah, it would be nice. And we looked at what Carly has produced already in terms of looking at the costs of the program. And Jamie was optimistic that that looked like most of what we had to do, but she's working to confirm with her colleagues at the firm to make sure like that's 100%. But so we'll still have to do a study, or like we've done a lot of it. So we have to just do a couple more steps, but not the hearing.
Okay. And the fee that you're looking at is $10 per household per month, per week?
10 per household per month.
Per month.
Yeah.
Okay. And where are we at in terms of the infrastructure to get the fee?
We're working with once we get the confirmation of what we need to do, it should be pretty straightforward. And Sabel's looking at payment processing systems right now, and so we're on our way to be able to collect the money too once people sign up. But we're planning on launching on the 5th for free, and that's also like a marketing method too of like, let's get people interested again, get the word spread, and then, but fully transparent that there'll be a small fee soon.
And so will it be, once you are in for free, you're in for free and you're grandfathered in, or?
No,
the-
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get an idea what it looks like, yeah.
It's like, when new businesses open, they give like a grand opening, like a free
Gotcha,
burger
gotcha.
when you show up. It's a similar concept.
Gotcha, okay. Okay,
My house will be sending.
Great.
Very cool.
We have a lot of houses, Carly's mentioned, a lot of houses who were signed up last year before we paused, who are still interested. So we do have a natural base and more
I
places to
remember
go.
this was a big uproar in the community.
Yeah, there was a wait list
Yeah,
for
yeah.
many years, so there's always been demand out there.
yeah. Well, I think that this looks great. There's clearly a really thorough plan for how we're gonna get there. I'm really excited to see that both there's the horizon of the fee for service, but also for selling it. So this is really cool. And I don't think the program's never gonna make money or pay for itself, but that's, government's not in the business of making money. But it is good to see that some of the costs will be recovered so that we can continue to grow.
Yes.
And do more. That is what I feel like is really key, is the increasing that capacity. And this seems like a roadmap to that, so.
Yeah, and one thing me and Carly are trying to figure out still is just a hard math equation is once we get this system set up, when you add a new compost pile, like let's say you put one here at the community center, Friendship Manors asked for one, when you add a new like 3-stall system, does the cost of that outpace the revenue you can make from the compost it produces? And like trying to figure, like at what point do we get to where you can just add more piles without even costing the district money? It actually becomes like negative money.
Yeah, we start to get like an economy of scale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're trying to figure it out. At the very least, one new pile will cost $500 more a year based on the revenue it brings in. So that's pretty, that's very cheap. If we wanted to add a pile, it's not a big cost. But that's just a guess. We're not sure yet. But that's like the next number to figure out is
Mhm.
what does a new pile bring in versus what it costs. That's everything. That's what the committee's been working on. It's been a lot of work, and Carly has that. One thing to know for is the county hasn't been able to sell their compost yet. Carly learned at the they went on a tour of the.
Isn't there glass in it?
Yeah, it's just not, they're not doing
Yeah.
what we're doing.
I,
So
I think that's a little
Yeah.
apples to oranges,
Right,
just
right.
because it's a much different process that you do. And so I was gonna mention earlier when you were talking about, Carly, that we lose a lot of money on the collection, but that's also how you make sure that it's high quality. Is that
Right.
you're collecting it, you're placing it there, and that's not happening at the county facility.
Right. So-
Exactly, and they don't have I just wanted to clarify, just in case, they don't have glass in their final product, because they do a really good screening after, but it's just that a lot of contamination goes in, so including glass, but also plastic and stuff like that. But they also, just fun fact really fast, I don't know if you all knew that the landfill here is almost full, and that was sort of like the motivation to build that facility back in the day, just to be able to divert one of like the biggest volumes, I guess, in our trash cans, which is organics. So I just thought that was interesting. Like, just, I guess, even I think we have really great like intentions with what we're doing here. And I think that I'm confident that we'll see it pay off.
Well, and Carly has moved so fast. I've been really impressed. Just the AgriTurf connection and getting that online, and that we've sold our first bit of compost already. It doesn't feel like government. It feels like an entrepreneurial business.
Yeah.
Good job.
That's awesome. Well, I'm just really excited about this program because, and Carly probably knows this, but there's been a lot of commentary about the statewide law and its effects. And we in Santa Barbara County, even by having the digester, are a little bit ahead of the curve when it comes to everyone. But there's been a lot of commentary about the other counties where the instructions are to place your food waste in the green waste. And there was even a state commission that recommended totally pausing the implementation of this legislation. And I think that it's really cool that we're totally going the opposite direction, saying, no, how can we're going to invest money because this is a sustainable habit that we need to build for our community. And so I think this is really, program has so much value for all of our climate goals and sustainability practices. Thank you for all of your work putting this together to the committee, and also for you, Carly. I know you probably wake up and fall asleep thinking about this kind of stuff because I can tell how passionate you are about it. So it's such a puzzle, and I'm really glad you're able to put us on a path to put the pieces together.
Thank you so much.
All right, well, if you're ready, we can move to the next one. Nothing else on compost.
Okay, 3.2 updated program costs review.
Okay, so this is just the on the edges. We had to add a couple costs to some programs, so I wanted to, some of these we can remove, some of these we can keep, but wanted to go over with you all. So the first one is adding an intern into the operations area to help with the massive backlog of administrative work that Sibel would oversee, but is just a lot of administrative work we need to get through over the next year and a half. So that's one addition, is like an operations intern. Another thing is I adjusted our legal fees cost to match with the inflation increase that would happen in January. Next is the office cost is we started having the office cleaned and having other expenses for the office. So it now that it's being used again, we had a lower budget for the office essentially during the COVID year. So
It seemed way too low to me.
yeah, we're back to this is what it was before COVID. So we're back to this. The administrative expenses again, like our PARS, like retirement benefits program, we didn't have that budgeted last year, the administrative costs of that. So now they've been rolled in here. So these are the And then I mentioned the compost collective, but we added a marketing budget to them that wasn't there prior. So these are the, I call them the little costs around the edges of, we did the IV Safe Fund already, but these are the little costs around the edges of,
Never heard that term
Yeah.
before.
little, they're
You must
small.
have- You
Yeah.
created that term.
Yeah.
But budget
The
does.
little
Budget
costs
does.
around the edges.
Yeah. So those are the ones. There's some more in Ivy Beautiful, but that's a more full discussion that we have another agenda item for on Ivy Beautiful. So that's it on the updated program costs item.
Okay, any questions or comments? So we're ready to move on to 3.3, which is the Earthcomb contract options.
Okay, so we've been in close communication with Earthcomb, and we've needed to have them come out for a couple emergency jobs in the community, like the move out that's been happening just way later than the general move out, so just large dumpings that have occurred. So they've been doing some spot jobs for us. So in that, they had proposed that they could work with us on a monthly basis to do trash cleanup in Isla Vista. And they proposed two models to do that. And Jenna's on the call too to answer any questions. But the two models that they had were one at a $37,000 level, where it's twice a week they're coming. And the other one is at a $20,000 level, where it's once a week where they're coming, and they would be cleaning all of IV within a week.
Wow.
And then the other one, it would be cleaning all of IV in a week, but more quickly, just coming twice in a week, or more thoroughly. Sorry. What we did and what we looked at was our IV Beautiful labor budget had been 67,000, and that was based on a previous model of the program when it was a contract with United Way. We ended up really only spending like 25,000 this year, and then we spent 20,000 on the move out Earthcomb budget. But Jenna went in and looked at like how much her workers actually work usually, and that's about 31 hours per month each, and it costs around 44,000. So we are thinking that we could, like one thing we could have said is, oh, we could add more budget to Ivy Beautiful to do the Ivy Earthcomb trash cleanup component. But in fact, we can cover it completely with the current extra help budget that was 68,000. If we just put 21,000 into contracts to have Earthcomb do trash pickup, we would take that.
Is that option 1 or option 2?
Option 2. And then, so we would just take that off the plate of our Ivy Beautiful workers, and then they would focus on the graffiti and overgrown weeds and just the other glass cleanup, other things that they do on a daily basis versus Earthcomb coming out once a week. So that's it was originally, we were thinking we're going to do a budget ask change, but in fact, it's possible to cover this within the existing budget for Ivy Beautiful. So it's 47,000 for employees, and then it would be 32,000 here for contractual services. It's really cool because we had originally set 3,000 in contractual services a year ago, saying, oh, one day we'll bring back the homeless opportunity work program. So we were able to do it in a year. There it is. We put that wish in the budget, and it's real now. And it adds another $10,000 for power washing Isla Vista once per month. And these are spot jobs, not like any route. It's more, we found these 3 graffiti instances and this major spill, and like we collect the jobs and order them once a month. And the quote is for, and Jenna reminded me in the chat, the quote is for 11 months, because we would negotiate a separate quote for move out. So it's only for the months without move out, and then we do something separate for move out, since that's the whole thing of itself. And this is also like, it is set up for 11, so it hasn't been prorated yet for starting. If we agree to it, it'd only be 9 months this year. So, or we could just do some extra service with the extra 2 months. I'm budgeted here for 11 months though. So it's a good news. Like, these are 2 options. It's more of like, do we want to do this? We don't have to add extra money to do it, thankfully, for the Earthcomb.
And does that final month where we're negotiating move out, will that take extra money?
We have a move out budget here for 20,000, so we might want to increase it, and there's a separate discussion about that on the UCSB funding and how we allocate it. So there's extra UCSB funding possibly, so we could put it in here to make that bigger for move out.
So question is, what are the types of things that Earthcomb is able to do that like our in-house workers aren't, like, what are the kinds of requests that we're calling off for now?
It's just like large items that they need to haul to the dump. Maybe.
Gotcha, okay.
Things like large things that need to be hauled that Marlborough is just not doing for some reason, or they're just lingering on the street and, you know, they're coming in to do it. What they would be doing under this contract is like just full service cleaning, like the gutters, the sidewalks, the streets, picking up all litter. Basically what they did during move out, but you know, with less volume of trash coming in.
And our workers would do graffiti abatement and weeds.
Graffiti abatement, weeds, lighting identification, the glass removal on the sidewalks, because we have that equipment. Anything else related to beautification, we can add the street tree maintenance that we do. Yeah.
Do they manage C-click fix?
And C-click fix requests that we get. This would be like essentially just like regular cleaning. We would maybe, if there was something that, you know, in between Earthcomb coming in, we could also grab it. But Earthcomb would do like pretty much like, we couldn't do that. Like 4 people working 40 hours a week to do like a wholesale cleaning. So it's like that.
So what's the hour comparison between what we would be contracting for under that preferred option and what our in-house workers?
So this would get us, if you can see, 4 visits per month with 16 hours. So that's 4 times 16, that's 64 hours per month. Our workers each work 31 hours per month, 7 of them. So it is a it's not, our workers work way more, like in total.
Mm-hmm.
And they have a specialized crew and they have a truck and equipment that we also don't have.
Okay.
And
so what they're bringing equipment that we don't have, the ability to move these items because of that equipment
to haul,
to haul it. Okay.
Can I make a comment?
Sure thing.
Even with my workers working how they are now, there's just so much to do, that even if my workers continue to work exactly how they are, and they did days when they picked up trash and glass like they do now, even now, Earthcomb, I think, would just make a huge, huge difference. I guess what I'm trying to say is like what my team does is just, in terms of actual waste pickup, it's not comparable to what Earthcomb does when they pair up and they go out there and they're absolutely not afraid to touch anything. They have their hazardous waste license or permit. And they just go in there and get literally every piece of trash. I mean, I just can't even explain how effective they are. They're professional at what they do. And I think having a service like we had during move out, but year round, is just invaluable, because I can't tell you the amount of times I drive around and I see problem properties, and of course I tell code enforcement and he acts on it, but it takes days, and if it even gets solved in days, for the trash to go away. Whereas in this case, I could just have a list, tell Andrew where the pileups are, and he can just take care of it right away.
And this is, I don't know if this is like the same, but I know that the county comes, because we don't do street cleaning here, they come with like the leaf blowers. So how is that like, I don't know, I just feel like if the county's responsible for that, we shouldn't be putting up.
I don't know who's doing the leaf blowers. It's not the county. I mean, I know the county did some leaf blowing when they painted the red curves, and they were like,
Okay.
clearing the way to paint.
Huh.
But the county doesn't do that. Galena West Sanitary District does street sweeping, but only down the middle of the road,
Okay,
not on the gutters or anything
Okay.
like that. So
okay.
I actually just met with their general manager a couple days ago to talk about how we could work together more. Because
So Jenna, if I'm hearing you right, it sounds like Earthcomb will take on the higher tier, more difficult issues to solve, and our workers will take on the easier ones to solve. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, it is. But mostly I would say that my workers will focus on other things. I mean, there is endless graffiti. I could tell them to go tackle graffiti in every shift if I didn't have anything else for them to do. So for example, I mean, they can give their full focus to graffiti, flyer removal, picking weeds, documentation, that type of stuff. And Earthcomb would focus on the trash and litter. And they're just so effective and quick. It's just really incomparable unless you're hiring somebody specifically to do what they do. I just don't think you'll get the same quality of work.
Gotcha. Well, thank you for that. That makes a lot of sense to me. And yeah, definitely interested in supporting this. If we want better service, as far as keeping the community clean, we're the ones that are going to be our own saviors as far as it comes to this. So I love the idea. I do want to make the suggestion that when you do see those problem households, even though in the future, if you have Earthcomb to go and deal with it and solve the problem, you should still report those properties to code enforcement, because otherwise they're not going to have a record that there is a problem. And I just think that it's important that we continue to document the problem as it exists in that way so that the county is aware.
I love that idea fully. I think that we should keep very close record of every property that we touch.
right, that is the update on IV.
Well,
Beautiful.
that's very exciting.
Yeah. So yeah, we didn't have power washing in the budget last year either. We just had spare budget to do it, but we used it so much, and there was so
And it
much
was very
need.
successful.
And they deal with all the rules. We always were working for many years to try to do it ourselves. There's just so many rules to power wash, and these companies, they know the rules, they can do it, and we
Yeah.
just tell them where to go.
Nice. Okay, no further discussion. We'll
Okay.
move on to 3.4, the committed fund balance.
Okay, so I just wanted to go over this, like it's just the results of the end of the year and where we landed with everything. So we ended up with this is unaudited, obviously, and so this might change once our audit moves ahead, but based on what it says on Fin, which is what we go off of until we've audited, we have essentially 2.1 million in our fund balance, and that led to some adjustments in our committed fund balance. And so we're going to take it to the board to formally approve the changes to fund balance, but it's our policy to do this, so it's not really a decision we're making, it's just to ratify. But we have $27,000 left in the UCSD account. We spent most of the safety stations reserve we had, and continuing to spend that mediation one. We have nothing in restricted, and our committed fund balance now has gone up from 1.9 to 2.1 million. Sorry, that's our committed and undesignated. Sorry, our committed has went from 1 million to 1.5 million. So it's based on our revenue and our expenses. It's just percentages of each. And so based on those calculations, that's where that's where each of these landed now. So some of them didn't change, some of them did. The equipment and the self-insurance, for example, are still the same, but the rest of them went up considerably. So this is money that we have, it's money to be used. It's, you know, it's committed for certain things. So committed for capital, we have 400,000. Committed for self-insurance, equipment, strategic. Yeah, and then undesignated is 641,000, and the UCSB remaining is 208 as of June 30th. So 850,000 undesignated. So that's where we landed with everything. I know you guys had talked about a new fund balance for property. That would be something we'd have to do a policy for and go through, like, you know, set up the, you know, have a policy committee set it up and the board approve. And then in the future, we can take that money out of our undesignated fund balance essentially to allocate it to that. But there is money for it if we wanted to do it. So.
Yeah, and maybe this is getting in policy territory, but I do wonder too if it makes more sense to just amend the amount that's going into like one of the ones that already exist, just because
you could do that.
It would probably not be great if we were trying to negotiate for property and get a line item in our budget that said future property acquisitions.
Right. Yeah, I mean, these are minimums. So we added to the capital one in the past. You can see we added 50,000 one year, and that was money for the community center improvement project that we put money towards. So you could add to this at any point that you want.
Cool. Well, I'd be supportive of that. I know that looking at the 850 undesignated number and thinking that it makes sense for us to designate it to something. The property is going to be something that we know we're going to need, whether it's for compost piles or a parking lot or community facilities. And so I think it's better to start now so that we can start building that funding up to be able to match financing if that's the route we need to go. You know, property is always going to be cheaper now than it is next year because it only goes up in value. So
I agree. I also know that we talked about trying to spend as much of the UCSB money as possible, and I don't know if like we're allowed to put that into capital
We
improvement.
can't.
Okay.
They hold the money, so we have to request it on a per project basis. So the money's with them until
Okay.
we use it.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
So yeah, to talk about the future of fund balance though, based on the 23-24 budget, we might end up with undesignated 250,000. So just know that there could be a use of a huge amount of our undesignated amount from the 2 years. Part of it is because we want to spend the UCSB 200K to zero before we renegotiate additional money. So that will go, you know, that's a huge chunk of the 850 that we want to go to zero. That's necessary to go to zero.
right, it's really only 641.
It's 640.
Measure our
And that's gonna go by 300,000. We'll go over what that 300,000 is, but that it is planned to go there. So we want to make that decision knowing what next year's projection is to be. And here's the planned use of the UCSD money. I just put extra because this is the extra you can use. And we haven't talked about the safety stations yet, which is, we'll talk about it when we get to the draft budget item. But it's interpersonal violence investigator full cost, safety stations 95,000, festival 55,000, same as this year. The art fund and the move out fund. So 13,530. Yeah, I know it goes to cents here, but that's just like to know exactly what we have left with it. That's how much is left. So.
And a quick question for that is, obviously we have approval on IVI Safety Station Festival, or do we have to read?
Yeah, we're good on festival. Yeah, for the most part.
And then on art and move out, do we have?
I'll talk to Chuck. I mean, they've only said
So
no
that
once.
just still needs to be
Yeah,
talked to. Okay.
me and Chuck have been playing phone tag for a month, so we hope to meet in a week. But we finally caught each other. Yeah,
cool. Well, definitely, if you're looking for ideas on the 13,000, I think we had talked about the idea of working with Ivy Beautiful, maybe the art community to redo the Ivy sign, which could use a nice little touch up, I think, and it would be kind of a cool, it is on UCSD
time
property,
I-
so that's the nexus that I think about.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Every time I look at it, it gets sadder.
I know.
I mean, you might need to put this whole thing into the safety stations budget, it's gonna go up from
Okay.
95,000, that might be one need, I'm trying to figure that out, and then, or the move out 20K is good, but, we could use more always and move out, I mean, I think we spent around this much this year, or a little more than this, like 22,000. So we could do, more and move out as well, if we needed it. Those are two areas, but yeah, we have it extra to allocate remaining. So yeah, that's where our fund balance is. And I think if there's anything else I know I've been like referencing so many things. I can go and actually talk about them now. If you guys are good.
Further information or discussion or questions? Then we'll move ahead to 3.5, financial projections.
Okay, this is, I want to say it's bad news, but it's not necessarily good news either. The financial projections for salaries is something you guys asked for, and we said we were gonna do. So now we have a setup for it. It will be easy to change and update in the future. And the way this works is, okay, these are all the permanent staff positions that we have right now in the budget, and like hired, approved, either way, some of them aren't filled right now, but here's what we have. And then this growth is just, the formula is times COLA, which is, I put 3.7% as like the average, that's what this year's was, let's say averages out to that over the years. Obviously it was 7 the year before. And then, so times COLA and then times merit raise. So that's like the projection. And Isabel, I'm just noticing I have the wrong number for you here, but it's okay. I just have things like mislabeled, but it is all the right people. It's just all one off. But anyways, these are all our positions and how they grow over the years. And as you can see, the salary costs, if nothing changes with our positions, the salary costs go to 828,000 by 2026, 2027. The health insurance went up by 15% this year. It doesn't always go up by 15%. But I just use that as the model now because, let's just use that. And if it's worse, or if it's better, it's better. And then the other things are just Medicare and retirement. Those are all just formulas based on the salary. So if you look at the salaries and benefits, they go from, 896 to 1.1, 84, and then as a percentage of the utility tax. And the utility tax I also had grow at inflation because we're gonna have to do a GAN limit soon. And we might end up finding creative ways to allocate to capital and not to other things to exempt money from the GAN limit, but let's assume we can only grow by the GAN limit amount of inflation, which is 3.7%. Over time, salaries become a bigger percentage of the budget. They outpace the growth. This is obviously without any restructuring,
This is very preliminary and very crude.
Yeah, it's crude. It's on but it's just so you know, it's like illustrated.
A good place to start.
And then I put in the temporary salary. So this above was only the permanent employees, and then this is like our intern and temporary positions. It's 80%.
91.2.
And you don't want to be at 91% because it makes it really inflexible, but your budget. But I don't think we'll get there. But at least its eyes are open, so we know that we're not gonna get there. And this doesn't include us looking at other revenue sources. It's obviously a percentage of the utility tax, but the utility tax is our only reliable revenue source. Besides, all this other stuff, it will be nice, compost sales, rentals at the community center, etc. But this is where the real money's coming in. So something to know. I mean, I would recommend at this point we don't add any more positions, at least for 1 year. Like in our next budget cycle, we shouldn't add positions for 24-25 at this point. I think we can just settle in with this growth and see how that goes.
And do you think that's pretty aligned with how all our programs are doing right now?
Well, it's a choice, it's like we can say we're only gonna do this stuff and stick to this, which we might have to do. Like, it actually, I don't think there is money to add another position,
Yeah.
actually, at this point. Yeah.
Well, I think this is a helpful exercise for us to be aware, because we have been growing very quickly to match up to the growth of the tax.
Right.
And we know that that's not gonna continue at the same pace into the future. It's good and informative for us, but I also think it's important that we all as board members know that, like, it's not like our staff are not services, like their
Right.
time,
Oh my
what they're
gosh,
bringing
yeah.
are the services.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, some naysayers in the community like to pick at the cost of staff and salaries and things like that, but those are the people that make the services happen. So I just think that that's a good thing for us to keep in mind too. It's not like this money is wasted. It is the opposite of wasted. It is put exactly where it needs to be to our people so that we can do the things that make our community better. So
We couldn't do anything without these costs, so if we were, yeah.
And we're proud of what we're doing.
absolutely.
Yeah, we feel like we're getting
Absolutely.
good value for money. Yes.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, just looking at other public agencies' budgets that are a similar size, we're in a comparable place when it comes to the
Percent.
amount that we spend on salaries compared to how much revenue we bring in.
Yeah, that's good to know. So basically, the way it shakes out is each program has 2 staff and then 3 central staff members, right? Essentially, that's how it is me, Sybelle, and Sydney as like the centralized services and roles, and then every program with a manager and a project manager. That's a good structure to have built out to at this point, so.
Okay, any further discussion? And we move to 3.6, which is the 2023-2024 final budget draft.
Okay, so the final budget draft, we do have an updated utility number. It landed at almost 1.4 million last year in revenue, so that's the number we'll use for this year, is last year's number. We know that it'll probably grow more than this, to some 150,000, and this is the year we're setting. We'll have to figure out which date the GAN limit actually will start, but we know that we're doing it after the emergency ended, which was March or February 28th. So this next fiscal year is our first year where we can even have a baseline year of revenue. So it'll probably be the same amount of growth this next year but we're using 2022, 2023 numbers. So 1.4 million.
And will Carrie Troop be our GAN limit person?
Her and our attorneys will work on all that out together. Yeah. Next up is charges for services. So we are counting 15,000 for community center reservations, the private rentals that we hope to get. 17,000 here is between the refuse here is the compost collective collection fee, and then the 15,000 here is the exchange agreement we have with the county. There's so many similar numbers here. So the 15,100 is the exchange agreement we have with the county for the management of this building. So they pay us that amount, and we pay them the same. 15,000 is for rentals that we make at the community center and the community room, and then 16,800 is our compost collection. There's actually even a line item, refuge collection, in the code, so I found that one for us. And then this last one is $2,000, is an experimental guess of the future of Ivy Beautiful providing beautification services on private property, if anybody ever wants to pay us to do something on private property. So that's our charges for services.
And the reservations, what's our track record so far?
We made about $2,000 one year on reservations, so not nothing, but we've never really focused on it. It's really, Maya is at another meeting right now, so I don't have the number for this year off the top of my head, but it's about 2,000. I mean, the full day rate we've been going with is like 300 if you want to rent it for a full day, and that's just based off of what the county's rate system was when we first inherited the building. We can set our own rate system, and that's something we're going to be looking into this year. And according to our legal team, it's one where we don't have to go to a rate study and approval by anybody. We can set any amount we want for rentals. So we got to develop it now and set up our own structure and all that. But we've had a couple private events, and it's almost a struggle when we have a private event because we don't have a rate system and we don't have a really formal private reservation. They end up paying by check. We don't have a credit card processing, so it's something where it's on our board goals to develop this year.
So with Maya underfilling Sydney's role in the short run, are we short-staffed then in that whole area? That are we getting behind?
Not really, because we just hired a
Summertime?
project manager. Well, yeah, because of summer we've been fine, and we just started a new project manager for community spaces who's going to take on the reservations and scheduling system. So that was a big part of what Maya's ongoing work was in her regular role. So we should be good. Yeah. And that opens her up to focus her community spaces time on things like the private rentals and bringing in partners. Yeah. And we know there's some businesses that are interested in using the space, for example, and they would be, we'd have to charge them. And so that's another opportunity. Yeah.
And when does Sydney do that?
December 4th. So that's that. And then next up is state grant. This is the last bit of the mobility study grant that we should receive this year. This is a big chunk, 539,000 other government agencies. So 305,000 from UCSD for the public safety programs that we operate with them. So that's the majority of it. 55,000 from UCSD for the community festivals. 35,000 for move out and public art, the 13,000 unallocated, it is in the budget. And then the parking study money from the county and UCSB for this fiscal year's portion. So this is, minus 3 months of study values this year, the 9 months. So that's a pretty big chunk, but it's, agreements we've already had are made to receive money for that money we have to go after. Next up, other sales. That's the compost sales that we hope to achieve this year. And then sponsorships we're bringing back in for the spring festival. We weren't able to do it this year because of our planning timeline, but we won't have that planning timeline issue this time. And that's miscellaneous revenue at 32,000. And then finally, we're planning $300,000 of use of our fund balance, and that's where you saw the 641 go to 300. So 19,000, that's not from our general fund balance, that's from our UCSB money for the housing mediation program. 89,000 as our portion of the parking study. It's our coordinator plus the study one-time costs. 10,000 for IV Beautiful equipment, and that's just something I did because those are one-time costs and we were showing a deficit, so I was designating that 10,000 is specifically going for that equipment. 88,000 is for this community planning effort. If we do it or when we do it, it's just the money there for it. It's not something we've had a discussion about, so it's just still status quo as it's been before. And then 97,000 here is one-time costs for furniture and equipment for the center, one-time costs for the garden expansion, and then startup costs for the compost collective, because we are expanding the budget in a way to ramp up to get to these sales and figures. We put it here as the startup costs for that, and that all adds up. It adds up quick. It doesn't look like it does, but it adds up quick to 204,000 using fund balance.
But all of these are one-time costs.
The compost startup money is technically not one time, it's startup. So those will have to go into the regular budget eventually, but not this year. And then, I mean, hopefully at the very least, the, the tax grows and accommodates the growth into the tax. And the revenue grows from 22,000 to 70. So that's hopefully gets covered this way. Yeah, so so the full budget is $2.3 million in revenue. Besides that, we've discussed all the other changes that happened. We discussed the compost collective and the budget dust, or around the edges additions, like the intern or the subscription costs and cleaning costs that we have. So there's not many other like additions to expenses, and so it does come out still to 22 under. So we'll have to just allocate that somewhere in like operations. But we do, so it is a tough budget. I'm saying like it's not exactly the budgets of the past where we had so much extra money and we didn't know what to do with it. And now we're saying, okay, we're kind of going from every corner, allocating money to things to make sure everything's covered. So it's not like we're in trouble, not that at all. We're just like filled up. We're filled up. Yeah,
Yeah.
we filled out a lot. So we grew to match our revenue for sure at this point, and our activities grew. So that's the last thing to cover is like that 22,000. I don't want to say it almost doesn't matter where we cover it from because it's just general budget expense. You can put it in operations, you can put more in community programs because those are two areas that have grown the most in operation and costs in the last years. The two biggest areas, 32% and 31% of the budget. But at the end of the day, it's drawing from fund balance is drawing from fund balance. Where you say you want to put it is a policy choice of, oh, I want to fund this program with the fund balance versus this one. But at the end of the day,
you can't do it forever.
You can't do it forever. So, I mean, that's why, as you saw, like I went and I already started doing here, like the furniture, that's in the ongoing budget, but it's not really ongoing. It's eventually you'll stop buying that much furniture. So I put it fund balance. Same with the IV Beautiful equipment. We're not going to buy equipment for that program forever. We're going to run out of things we need eventually. And so that's how I've been trying to make this balance in a way that's clearly showing that the fund balance is not going to ongoing costs. Like salary. So, except, I mean, in this one case that we are just doing that on purpose. So that's our budget for next year. I think it's a good budget. It's like we're going to accomplish a lot, but it is it's one where we have to be very strict about our spending. Like we can't say, oh, it's okay, this went a little over because we have so many unspent areas. Like, it's going to be definitely a budget where we have to be very stringent, but we have a lot to execute. It's a lot of money for new positions and goals to hit. So.
And then we're counting on revenue that is a little bit untested, so we need to keep our eye on that as well.
Exactly. It is a lot of risks, not risks, but like chances we're taking and guesses. Yeah. But and I think it'll be good to see where we land in June. And like we're not gonna, like you see, like we can, if we have to, like worst case scenario, we will not have to lay off staff. Like we have all our staff costs covered by utility tax. So if all the things go 100% wrong and everything just goes completely against our favor, we would still be fine at the end of the day. We can still move on and continue.
Yeah, and we have so much casual labor too.
Yeah.
So there's always a lot of turnover in that area.
Exactly.
I think the thing that gives me less heartburn about it too is that I don't think there have been very few instances in where we have not had savings within these programs because of turnover, whether it's temporary employees or full-time employees. And that, obviously creates more administrative time costs, but it does create cost savings that way. And it's a natural thing that you can never build into the budget because you always have to allocate the entire amount. But, electricity rates are going up. I don't know about gas, but I know trash rates recently went up to like, the UUT really is a solid revenue source. It's better than we could have ever imagined, to be honest.
It really is.
The sewage went up, so we got 20,000 extra from our sewage.
So it's really the gambling that's our issue.
Yeah. And I think with the Ganwin, not that we're agendized to talk about it, there's options out there, and we should talk about it formally. Maybe once the budget's
Yeah,
done,
no,
the
that's
finance committee can meet
Something
about
we've
that.
had the luxury of sort of ignoring all this time,
Yeah.
but now we need to really.
We need to look at
pay
it.
Yeah,
attention
and
to it, 'cause
maybe
that's
it's a
very
thing-
important to
Yeah.
us.
Maybe it's a thing too that we get a confidential legal opinion from our counsel on too. Just because I know that it can be sensitive, but I agree that like it's something that we should be thinking about in terms of how can we
We should.
do everything we can to delay that implementation to as much as we can within the bounds of the law.
And I think we've kind of done that to this point already. Like we went off the emergency order where we didn't have regular revenue for many years. Our revenue is probably, we could never know the impact, right? Like how many people left IV and never used utilities that normally would. We'll never know what the impact was. So,
Okay,
well, yeah.
so that is it for our agenda.
I think that's it. If there's anything else you all, I mean, if you all have specific direction on where I draw the 22,000 for, I'll take it. If not, I'll figure out, one-time places and where I can allocate it, where it's, if it all went away, it would all be fine at the end of the day. But otherwise, I'm looking forward to implementing this budget. Here's the last point though, we need to talk about the safety stations. At the current moment, UCSD is saying we need to pay the 55% cost recovery fee on their services to us. So say CSOs cost $18 and change an hour, and they want to charge us $28 and change an hour for a CSO. So if you take this $95,000 budget, which is what it was this year, and you apply it to it, the costs go up to $160,000. I'm trying to negotiate, and I've been working with Kirsten, and technically the Office of Budget and Planning, so Chuck Haynes, has authority to waive the requirement for us. And it's kind of silly that they would be essentially charging themselves the money because we entirely pay for this program with money from UCSD. But as of even an hour ago, from UCPD at least, they've said we are charging you this fee. And I've had multiple conversations with the chief and trying to work something out, but I haven't had any budging on it. So let me pull up their, and I just got this information an hour ago, so I didn't. So they're projecting the total cost to be 132,000 next year. Because I said, if you multiply this by 55, it's 160. They're also saying we can't launch the third station until January again for staffing up. So you save some money by not having the third station up in fall quarter. So, it's a $40,000 addition here, but where does that money come from? You could put the 13,000 from UCSB towards it. There's still then money to put towards. You could put our money towards it. That's fine, but I think there's a principal issue here more than a budget issue. Like, could we pay for this? Yes, for sure we could pay for it. But is it where we want to spend our money? Yeah, that's really the issue is, do we want to spend $40,000 of our money on administrative costs?
Well, I think it's important to remember too that we've funded through mutually agreed upon projects through UCSB. So it's kind of like there are big bureaucracies, different sides of the institution here, but if they were to charge us the 55% administrative fee, they would be the ones who would be paying it, I guess. And so on principle, it doesn't make sense to me either, because this is not a complicated research grant that they usually charge the admin fee to because it's complicated. This is like a much more straightforward relationship of governmental partnership that we have. And I understand that they've made arrangements with other public agencies in arrangements like this where there's a service being provided. So I think it's good that you're talking with Chuck Haynes and Kirsten to try to negotiate it, but at the same time, for us, how much of a difference does it really make if they're just going to be the ones to pay it?
Yeah, but that's the thing, is like we could change how we use our UCSB money. Like we can say we'll pay for the art and we'll pay for the move out, for example, and we can put all of this. You can put all of this and it would be pretty much this 95, 15, 10. You can put that all towards safety stations, and yeah, UCSB would pay it, and we'd have to eat those costs as like, I guess they're kind of one-time costs, the art. But it's still money that we have. It's money. It's added cost to the district budget, regardless of where it's coming from. We are gonna have to subtract from something.
And is it a rationale then for them to give us more money when we renegotiate?
I think it's part of the rationale. I mean, also the investigator, went up from 150 to 210. So that also, evaporated 60,000 from our usual budget. So, and that's a decision we have nothing to do with. Like they increased their salary, which is fine. Like obviously it's a good thing, probably, but they're increasing costs, and we're using their money to pay for it.
So they need to increase
their contribution. I mean, they increased those costs because of inflation. We haven't had our contribution increased because of inflation. Our 200,000 is from 2015. That's probably worth 100,000 now or something. It's worth nothing, comparatively. Like it's lost a lot of its value. So if you guys have any guidance in terms of like, do we want to just stick with this number with the safety stations? Do we want to go to 130 and hash it out later, or keep it at 95, hash it out, and then change it, like do a budget adjustment? I don't know.
I think we have to stick with the current number.
Yeah.
I think it would be preemptive for us to make a decision. It sounds like the ball is totally in UCSB's
But
court.
if they've told us it's 130, why wouldn't we change it to 130?
Well, that's with the cost, but there is a
There's
chance
negotiations.
to get the fee waived still. Like I can go up. I mean, I can even go to the chancellor and ask. Like I'm willing to go if you guys want me to, and ask the chancellor to get this changed. But Chuck Haynes should be able to.
I think the situation would be different if what we were asking for was 0 administrative fee. But what we're asking for is for it to not be 55%, which is exorbitant. And it makes sense in the context of the grants that they give out for research, but doesn't make sense in this situation.
Yeah, but the thing is we have paid an administrative cost to UCPD in the past for their administrative. So it's like this is for the campus. It's like what's up?
At what rate do we pay?
I think it's folded into the CSO
Okay.
pay, because I don't know what the rate is. But
So the administrations, we're not even talking about the administration within UCPD itself.
The
We're
campus.
talking about the campus budgetary mechanisms.
So another level up in administration.
Yeah.
Being charged to this.
Yeah.
like 3 levels.
I have full faith that this is gonna get figured out. UCSB's always been a really good partner. Again, it sounds like the ball's in their court.
Yeah.
Let's just proceed as if, we're gonna continue with the 195.
Okay, sounds good.
I'm a sponsor. And like from the relationship that it sounds like you have with Chuck specifically too, like I feel like
We
there's
should
pretty
be
good
okay.
chance.
Yeah.
We're putting it all on you, Jonathan.
I'll try.
About it.
Yeah, I don't think it's on you. I think it's on UCSB.
Well, we're the David in this David and
Yeah.
Goliath situation, so. Good luck, Jonathan.
Thank you.
We appreciate you and your slingshot.
I'll try. No, I think it should be fine, but yeah. That's about it though on the budget. That's the safety station is the real only question mark. Everything else I think I'm 100% sure of, besides the revenue guesses that we hope to get. But the expenses I think are solid. And they will get us to accomplish a lot. So I mean, these are a lot of positions for IVCSD to have 9 permanent jobs. So we have a lot to do with them.
I did have one cool question
Yeah.
about you said that the implementation of the 3rd safety station would be delayed. Was that because of our issues
There
with IVCSD or
UCPD
staffing issues on their end?
Staffing issues.
Okay.
Yeah. We're almost figured out with IVRPD.
Okay.
Soon. I'm working on it. I have the rental agreement filled out.
Gotcha.
Okay, we are next agendized for a meeting on Monday, September 18th at 5:00.
Yeah, and that's when we can talk about our our audit. I hope to at least have the audit in motion by that day. It won't be a draft for you to look at, but I think it would be good for you guys to participate in some way in that, and then we can also talk about the GAN limit that day too. Is there anything else you guys wanna talk about? It's like post-budget. Oh, we might have to have a different date. I think I have jury duty. Well, I have to call and find out, but I have jury duty that week, so, yeah, or you guys can go without me, but
No.
that's
we
my
have
jury
to
duty.
go. Yeah. All
I
right,
have 4 weeks of jury duty this
do you wanna
fall.
set it right now? 4 weeks?
Yeah,
Is this the one in LA?
I have two weeks in LA and 2 weeks here,
Oh, God.
separate,
That's,
state superior court.
That's like a coincidence?
Yeah.
They got you from 2 different jurisdictions for the same month?
Mhm.
Ooh.
I deferred them. They were both this month, and I deferred them to
You're
October.
kicking the can down the road.
I just couldn't do them this month. But anyways, yeah.
Well, and then all of September is not good for you, huh?
Yeah, so maybe until like October 2nd, because the 25th is part of my jury time too.
Okay,
So-
so should we change that then and say, October 2nd,
October 2nd is good.
right?
so we'll have, if we're gonna talk about the GAN limit, we'll have like a legal analysis.
Yeah, I have a lot of
Yeah.
stuff from Ross from
Okay.
before, so we should be good to get started with. We talked about doing like a resolution saying, yeah, so we'll talk about it then, what we need to do for that.
Okay.
Okay, we're adjourned.
All right, thank you guys. Quick meeting.
Thank you.
No, thank you.